Hey everyone, for trichomes.com, I'm Ashley Manning, and this is Careers in Cannabis. On this show, we sit down with staffing agencies, cannabis companies, and other industry professionals to discuss employment opportunities in the burgeoning cannabis industry. The cannabis industry, like many others, is factually male-dominated. Women executives are becoming more prevalent, but it's not an easy road and still can feel like the good old boys club. However, some women are realizing their skills and value in choosing a higher road by becoming their own boss. Today's guest had a deep personal experience with cannabis, and after realizing how personal cannabis can be, she wanted to help others by elevating cannabis's potential. She took her skill sets she learned prior to having a career in cannabis and applied them to a career in cannabis. She's held several leadership roles inside and outside of cannabis and realized in order to break the glass ceiling, it's best to be your own boss. On this episode, we follow the journey of the incredibly talented woman, Cara Raffele, CEO and founder of Altalunas. Altalunas is a brand-centric management consulting firm uniquely positioned to accelerate the growth of female-founded and women-focused wellness brands. Hey, Cara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley.
It's good to see you here, and I'm happy to have you here as my guest. You're someone who I've looked up to in the industry as holding many leadership roles, and to me, that's someone that I want to continue to follow their journey on. But today, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you and your journey and the journey you've been on in your career in cannabis. So I'd love to just kick it off with, let's start. Take me on your journey. What were you doing right before you had a career in cannabis?
Certainly. Right before I was in cannabis, I had spent the previous 20 years in media, marketing, and primarily in the technology industry. So I began my career as a reporter with the Orange County Register, and I went from there into corporate marketing with a series of technology companies, including a distribution company. But I really fell in love with disruptive technologies, and I was part of launching about 20 technology companies. I also owned a media, marketing, and branding firm, and we grew to the third largest firm in Orange County, California, when we were open.
Oh, wow. That's quite a skill set to have, and has a lot of that played into your current role in cannabis, which we'll get into shortly, but I imagine it does.
Absolutely. I mean, I think coming out of a disruptive technology environment is you have to do a lot of convincing people that your ideas will work. You're having to synthesize very complex information into bite-sized digestible chunks so it is understandable. And also working in startups for so long, learning to be so flexible and learning to zig and zag and being able to change plans at a moment's notice and becoming very resilient. And all of those are skill sets and qualities that one has to have for a career in cannabis.
So with having a leadership role in media and all the skill sets you mentioned, how has that transitioned into a career in cannabis specifically?
Well, specifically, a couple of qualities that translated over are that it's really important to know how to just read people and build empathy with people. Developing a career in cannabis is not a linear path because the industry changes and evolves so quickly. So I used my early skill sets in storytelling as I jumped into the cannabis industry, first working in marketing at a retail dispensary level and really understanding just the nuances of this industry and how to work with distribution companies, brand manufacturers, legislators, governing bodies, as well as, of course, consumers. And from there, also saw that were some gaps in the industry. Even though it's a brand new industry, very, very easily to spot some gaps, especially when it comes to marketing to women and products for women.
Agree with you. And I think that's where we initially had met, was at a women's event for cannabis in lifestyle brands. And so I think one of the most important parts from what I'm hearing of you're saying in your previous role before having a career in cannabis is selling a vision, essentially, you know, working with what you have in front of you and having to sell that vision. Is that accurate?
That's exactly accurate. It is selling that vision and making it something that is tangible. Especially in early days, early days of fundraising, being able to translate that vision into something tangible for investors and something tangible for consumers of buying products that they perhaps even once feared, or they were coming up against stigmas and misconceptions.
Right, right. What was your aha moment, we'll say, to decide to take what you were doing before and putting that into cannabis? Why cannabis?
My aha moment was something incredibly personal. And as I got into the cannabis industry, I heard similar stories from other people. And that about 7 years ago, my husband, then boyfriend, almost died. He was diagnosed with an acute autoimmune disorder that came on rapidly, and he became paralyzed within a few days. And as he struggled back to health, we explored everything to help combat the pain, the anxiety, neuropathy, and other physical conditions he was facing. And a neurologist at the time wanted to put him on heavy doses of opioids and other painkillers that would not benefit him. They wouldn't have treated the neuropathy and autoimmune disorders, and the risk of addiction was so high, as you know. And I started doing my own research and came across cannabis. And it sounds really silly to say I came across cannabis because I certainly knew it was there. But here I was in my early 40s, and I had to admit to others that I thought of cannabis in one of two ways: purely recreational, you get high and have fun, or as something for end of life and palliative care, to ease the final days. The whole world of cannabis wellness, as it being part of a daily routine to have your optimal healthy lifestyle, was foreign to me. And I thought, if I didn't know this, having a career in media and marketing and out and about, and consider myself well read, I just knew other women and other families didn't know that either. And that was the impetus to get into cannabis industry full time and to start companies in this space.
Makes perfect sense. Where were you going? 7 years ago, we're still in our infancy in this industry, but 7 years ago, there still was a ton of missing information and credible resources to find it. Where were you Googling this, or how were you finding
Googling it and
anything
about Googling it and social media, and then opened up to some very trusting friends or friends I trusted to say, where do I buy weed? Like I just where do I buy weed? And don't judge me for this. And having to have those conversations. And then I'm just a very curious person by nature. So when I start to learn something, I just dive into it and want to research all facets of it. And then just started to help educate others about it too. But I got to tell you that first time of ordering, a guy delivered products in a brown paper bag, and he was on a skateboard and pulled things out of his backpack. And that was another shocking moment to me of, here is this plant that is so beneficial and people are having to hide it. And, certainly there's those who came well before me who have been incarcerated because of this, have lost jobs, have lost financial futures in order to make what we now have in the state of California and so many other states as a legal right to be able to have access to it. And just found myself wanting to share whatever talents I had to help advance their missions and their causes, and fell in love with the people as much as fell in love with a new career.
Yeah, it's always great when you can combine passion with pleasure, with also, your career. It makes you feel like you're not actually working, but we actually work harder.
Exactly. Yes.
Because we're still selling a vision. We're selling a vision and what we want to see for this industry and where we want to see it go. And a lot of people don't have their ears open yet. And that's the reason I chose a media career in cannabis, is to help elevate those credible resources to find information and clarify the misinformation, as well as help spread the word. So we're in this journey together. So let's shift gears a little bit. What are some current roles that you've had in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, so after working in pure marketing for, as I said, a cannabis retailer, I had an opportunity to co-found a company called MyJane. And MyJane in 2018 was the first cannabis subscription service for women. And our idea was to be able to help women deal with everyday life. And especially at the Gen X baby boomer age, things that we face as women, helping to give advice to parents and grandparents, stress and anxiety of our own, aches and pains, looking at younger generations and seeing the anxiety that they're dealing with and hoping that they develop great coping mechanisms for it and healthy behaviors. So that was my first, I guess, official entrepreneurship role in cannabis, was MyJane. And we were very fortunate to be able to sell that company 9 months after launching it. And from there, we sold it to Manifest 7, which is a cannabis holding company. And I was invited to, at that point, help to create Whedon, which is a statewide cannabis retailer and delivery service. So as part of the branding for that and the launch of the services here in California. And from there was then invited to become the vice president of marketing for Manifest 7 and all of its companies, which include Highlanders Distribution and a series of e-commerce companies as well on the cannabis ancillary side. And I was in that role until last year, December of 2020. And in January, again, put on my entrepreneurial hat to co-found Altalunas, which is a brand-centric management consulting firm in the cannabis space. And we work specifically with female founders of cannabis brands and lifestyle wellness companies to help them accelerate their growth. And this is things like access to capital, better representation in the marketplace, education, working with media partners, because I think what you do, Ashley, is probably one of the most important roles in our industry, is that aspect of education and evangelizing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So is you essentially broke that glass or grass ceiling, as we'll call it, by becoming your own boss. Is that, advice you would have to those seeking a career in cannabis? Well, or seeking a leadership role in cannabis?
I really hope that women are able to take multiple paths. For me, entrepreneurship is the right one. It affords me the opportunity to take calculated risks, to further invest in women and help lift them up through direct investment and the services that we bring. But I really also encourage women to find companies that value them and value diversity, inclusion, and minority voices, because if we all step out of more corporate companies, that harms the industry and it harms our economy and it harms society as well. But there are companies that, as we all know, unfortunately, are not going to give women and minorities and diverse voices the ability to ascend in meaningful ways. And I'm not talking just about having the right title. It's actually about having great representation and that your voice matters at a company. And so as we're looking at careers in cannabis, it's not only important to get the right job that you want, but to take the time to find the right companies, the right environments, the right investors that believe and share your missional values and missional purposes that you have for wanting to get into cannabis too.
100% agree with you on all that you said. That it led into my next question a little bit, but I'd like to take it to more of an entry level position as well. What would be some big sister advice you would give someone who is considering, jumping ship, what they're currently doing and getting into cannabis specifically?
Well, one thing is if you're already employed in another industry, whatever job you have or skill set, I guarantee you has a comparable role within the cannabis industry. We do need seasoned professionals and those young in their career who are hungry in traditional roles too: marketing, finance, retail management, merchandising. All of these things and these careers that you find in more traditional industries, we need in the cannabis space. So one easy way to just get your foot in the door is to bring what you already know, bring who you already are into this space. The second way is as making that career transition. And I cannot stress the importance of education enough. Fortunately, there are some great universities and community colleges that are offering certificate programs and degrees in cannabis. And having a more formal education, I think, is important. It helps to show the legitimacy of this industry and shows that the industry is poised for a great growth trajectory. Also, on the idea of education, there are fantastic online courses one could take to pick up cannabis fundamentals in every aspect, from cultivation to retail and distribution, marketing. And I encourage people to learn as much as they know and to look at some of these certificate programs so that they come in armed with knowledge, not only about their particular discipline of what they've studied perhaps in school or in a previous career, but understand the multifaceted cannabis industry, because having more of a holistic knowledge of how the supply chain works, of the business fundamentals that are important, will only give you a leg up and help you rise to the top of that recruiter's list.
And coming from you, that's great advice because you've ran retail operations. So supply chain, what a good candidate looks like and what their resume would look like. So take that advice from Cara regarding certificate programs or taking college courses. I think it's wise information. Not a lot of companies are requiring that you have these, but it definitely helps elevate your resume, especially as we're growing. It's becoming very competitive now. It used to be, tons of jobs were open, but now there's thousands of applicants, and with the pandemic, there's even more applicants because people are unemployed. And so we've really boosted what we're doing on careers in cannabis to help elevate people to see there is an opportunity for them. And you touched upon the fact that whatever skill you're doing and work you're doing outside of cannabis can be done as well as inside cannabis as well. So great insights on that. Let's talk a little bit about Altalunas. You launched in January, so you're 6 months into it. Where do you see Altalunas going, and what is the outlook for you?
Thank you for that. I see Altalunas growing with the industry, and in our ideal vision come to life, we are helping female founders at all points. So I see us eventually growing into having our own fund to help invest in companies. I also see us helping to advise on distribution and retail, and taking a more active role. One of the most important things I believe for female-founded companies, women-led companies, is that we must take a seat at the table, not earn it. Because the idea of earning it at this point, we can all work hard, we can all put our heads down and hope that someone recognizes us. It's just not the way of the world. And I can idealize how things should be. And there are wonderful people who are making incredible inroads with advocacy and changing opinion and changing laws. And I thank God they exist. And I'm your partner and cheerleader in anything that you need us or anyone at Altalunas to do. But my business partner, Andrea Pike, and I truly believe that the way to ensure diversity and ensure that female founders succeed is making them profitable so that they have the capital in order to do the things they need to scale their companies appropriately, to have the marketing budgets to gain consumers' attention, and our savvy financial negotiators to have rightful place on retailer shelves as well. So we're wrapping around a lot of services around this idea of being primed for profitability and scalable growth to ensure that happens.
And you've already proven that proof of concept with your previous endeavors. So that gives you a lot of legitimacy as you're seeking new clients and as you grow as a company. Is Altalunas planning on hiring staff and expanding?
Yes, we will be. Definitely.
It might be premature.
No, it's a little premature right now. But I do anticipate that Q3, Q4, we will be adding, and then definitely the plans that we're putting into place now by 2022. Maybe we can have another conversation because I think that you'll see the list of services have grown and the impact that female-founded companies, women-led brands, and products for women are having in the marketplace will be a very different conversation a year from now too.
And that's not far away at all.
It's not. It really isn't.
A year goes by, especially in the cannabis industry. A year goes by, you blink. I swear you wake up and it's a year's gone by already.
So true.
So what is your why that's keeping you going in this industry? It's hard sometimes to keep going because we're combining, our personal life with our professional life, and that I don't think we realize that we can get, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but burnt out without even realizing we're burning out because we're combining two parts of our life, our entire life, to our career, essentially. So what's keeping you going?
That is an amazing question that I hope everyone, no matter what stage of your career you're in, asks themselves and finds the answer for that, because burnout is real. And burnout comes up in various ways, from poor health outcomes to poor relationship outcomes, and then not being able to see the fruits of your labor manifest with career success. My why has always been to be able to be a person of increase. So that I have this idea that I always want to be able to give more value than I receive and give more value to my family. That is, being able to show up authentically with them at the times that they need it most. For my business partner, Andrea, so that she is seeing her career objectives and ambitions be able to be there and grow, which are a little bit different than mine, but the company and our idea is broad enough that it can all be accomplished. The same with our clients, that they are finding that a year after working with us, that they have more impact, streamlined productivity, happier, healthier CEO mindset. All of these things increase and add value into the world. That is my why. I still get burned out and have to recognize the signs in me and know that it's okay to press pause. The world is not going to crash. And, I can tap out for a couple hours. I can tap out for a day and even take a vacation. And that is really important, that our why is measured and balanced. And that's what's right for me. Every person has to find their own answer for that. But I know I'm happiness and less likely to feel burned out when I can look around and see that other people are successful.
You have an incredible why in values as well. I think we need more Caras in the world.
We need more Ashleys.
Giving more than we receive is a huge milestone for some people to even just understand that concept. Not everybody was raised that way. Some people were raised the opposite. And so they don't know that. I read a book called The Go-Giver, and the secret to success is actually giving. And I've been following that book, and I feel like I'm on that journey myself. So thank you for having a fantastic values in your why as well. So if you don't mind, how can Altalunas be reached?
Yes.
Or you personally?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn at Cara Raffele. And then Altalunas is the same. It's alta.lunas on Instagram. Our website is just altalunas.com. And I love hearing from people. I love making connections. I have a big network of people, so what I don't know, I'm happy to help connect other people. I think that's also part of my why. So I'd love, if you have ideas or just have a sticky point, reach out and we'll help you if we can.
Oh, that's great. All great advice today. And I certainly enjoyed my interview with you. And I look forward to Q3. That's literally not that far away, having you back on and sharing some of the open opportunities that Altalunas has. Maybe have you and Andrea both on to discuss those opportunities.
Excellent. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cara. And if you don't have any last words, I will bid you adieu. Thank
you so much, Ashley. Really appreciate you and all that you're doing.
My thanks again to Cara Raffele for being my guest on today's episode. You can follow our series Careers in Cannabis, as well as more great shows like this one at trichomes.com. If you're a member of the cannabis community and you have a story you want to share with us, please reach out. You can reach the show by emailing careersincannabis@trichomes.com. Please take a second to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. It really helps others to find the show. You can also join in the discussion with industry insiders by visiting trichomes.com and following us on all social media. For trichomes.com, I'm Ashley Manning. Thank you for listening, and be well.